In the heart of whispering woods, where the trees hummed softly in the morning breeze, and flowers sparkled under the moonlight, there lived a little fox named Fern. Fern was small and curious, with bright amber fur, golden eyes, and a fluffy white-tipped tail. She lived with her grandmother beneath the roots of a great silver oak tree. Fern loved stories more than anything. Every evening, her grandmother told her wonderful tales about the forest. Tales of glowing lakes, moonlit paths, hidden doors, and old magic that still lived deep among the trees. But Fern's favorite story was always the same: the story of the lost lantern. Her grandmother would lean close and say, "The lost lantern appears only when the forest needs a brave heart." Fern always asked the same question.
What does it do?
And grandmother would smile and answer,
It helps the lost find their way.
One evening, as the sky turned soft purple and the stars began to shine, Fern sat outside her cozy den, looking into the woods. Something felt different. A thick silver mist was drifting between the trees. Usually the forest mist was light and gentle, but tonight it was heavier, stranger. It covered the path, the roots, and the stones until everything looked hidden and unfamiliar. Then Fern heard something, a soft sound in the distance. Someone was crying. Fern's ears lifted. She turned and looked back inside. Grandmother was fast asleep in her rocking chair, wrapped in her warm shawl. Again, Fern heard the crying. Small, sad, lost. Fern looked back toward the misty woods. Then she whispered to herself.
Maybe someone needs help.
She quickly wrapped her little blue scarf around her neck and picked up her tiny satchel. Inside, she packed a piece of bread, a smooth, lucky pebble, and a tiny bell. Then, taking a deep breath, Fern stepped into the mist. The forest felt very different at night. The trees seemed taller. The shadows seemed deeper. Blue mushrooms glowed softly near the roots, lighting Fern's path just enough for her to keep going. She walked carefully over moss and stones.
It's okay. I'm coming.
Soon, Fern reached the little brook that ran through whispering woods, and there, curled beneath the mossy log on the other side, was a tiny hedgehog. He was shivering. Fern crossed carefully and came closer.
Hello?
The little hedgehog looked up with wide, watery eyes.
I can't find my way home.
Fern sat beside him gently.
What's your name?
Pip?
I'm Fern. Where do you live, Pip?
Near Clover Hill. I was picking berries for my mother, but then the mist came. The path disappeared, and now everything looks the same.
Fern looked around. Pip was right. In the thick mist, even the familiar forest felt confusing. But Fern gave him a warm smile.
It's okay. We'll find your way home.
What if we can't?
Just then, a warm golden light flickered nearby. Fern turned. Floating in the air between the roots of an old elder tree was a tiny lantern. It was round and golden, glowing softly like captured moonlight. No one held it. It floated all by itself. Fern's eyes widened.
The lost lantern.
It's real?
The lantern bobbed gently, as if answering yes. Then it drifted forward into the mist. Fern smiled.
I think it wants us to follow.
Pip stood up quickly,
Then let's go!
and so they followed the lantern. Wherever it glowed, the mist became thinner. The hidden path appeared again beneath their feet. Step by step, the lantern led them deeper through whispering woods. Silver moths fluttered past them like falling petals. Dewdrops sparkled like tiny stars. Somewhere above, an owl gave a soft, gentle hoot. After a while, they reached a fork in the path. One trail led left into a dark group of pine trees. The other curved right toward a quiet meadow. The lantern stopped between them. Its glow became dim. Pip looked worried.
What happened?
Maybe it wants us to choose.
But what if we choose wrong?
Fern closed her eyes for a moment and thought carefully. Then she smelled something sweet in the air. Clover. And when she looked down, she noticed tiny little tracks in the damp earth. Hedgehog tracks. Fern smiled.
This way.
She took the right path. At once, the lantern brightened again. Pip's face lit up.
You were right.
Fern grinned, and together they hurried on. Soon they came to a moonlit meadow filled with glowing white flowers. But in the middle of the meadow was a huge fallen tree blocking the way. Pip stopped.
Oh no, I can't climb over that.
Fern looked closely. Under the trunk was a narrow space, small but just big enough. She untied her blue scarf and had an idea.
Wait here.
Fern slipped through the gap to the other side. Then she found a long vine, tied it to her scarf, and pushed it underneath the log toward Pip.
Hold on to the scarf with your teeth. I'll pull and you push.
Pip nodded. He grabbed the scarf. Fern pulled. Pip pushed. He wriggled. He squirmed. And then
I'm stuck!
No, you're not. One more push.
Pip kicked with all his might. And pop! Out he slid onto the grass. Fern laughed. Pip laughed too. Then he stood up proudly.
I knew I could do it!
The lantern floated in a happy little circle above them, as if it was pleased. Together they crossed the meadow. At last they reached a hill covered in soft clover. Tiny glowing bugs drifted through the air, and at the bottom of the hill stood a small, round home with a bright red door and warm golden windows. Pip gasped.
My home!
Standing outside the door was a larger hedgehog, peering worriedly into the mist. The moment she saw Pip, her face lit up with joy.
Mother!
She rushed forward and wrapped him in the biggest hug.
Oh, Pip, I was so worried.
I got lost, but Fern helped me, and the lost lantern helped too.
Pip's mother looked at Fern with kind, shining eyes.
Thank you, dear Fern. You brought my little one safely home.
Pip ran inside and came back holding a small, leaf-wrapped bundle.
These are clover cakes. My mother made them this morning. They're for you.
Thank you, Pip.
Fern smiled and turned to look for the lantern, but it was already drifting away. Its golden light floated softly back into the silver mist. Fern watched quietly. For just a moment, the lantern seemed to glow a little warmer, as if saying goodbye. Then it disappeared into the woods. Pip stood beside her.
Do you think it will ever come back?
Fern looked up at the stars twinkling above the trees.
Yes, whenever someone is lost.
After saying goodbye, Fern began her walk back home. Now the mist no longer felt cold or frightening. It felt gentle. The path seemed clearer. The forest seemed calmer. Even the leaves whispered softly as she passed. When Fern finally reached the silver oak tree, Grandmother was waiting outside with a lantern in her paw. The moment she saw Fern, she smiled.
There you are.
Fern ran to her and told her everything about Pip, about the mist, about the magical lantern, about the journey through the woods. Grandmother listened closely, her eyes warm and proud. When Fern finally finished, she asked in a small, quiet voice,
Grandmother, was I brave?
Grandmother bent down and gently wrapped Fern's blue scarf around her shoulders. Then she smiled.
Bravery is not about never feeling afraid, little one. It is about choosing kindness, even when you are.
Fern thought about the dark mist, the strange path, the fallen tree, and the little hedgehog who needed help. She had been afraid, but she had gone anyway, and somehow that made her feel warm and bright inside. That night, Fern curled up beneath her blanket while Grandmother made mint tea and placed the clover cakes on the table. The fire crackled softly. The forest outside was quiet. And just before Fern drifted off to sleep, she thought she saw a tiny golden light pass by the window. Maybe the lost lantern was still out there somewhere, helping someone else find their way home. Because in Whispering Woods, magic was real, and brave hearts were never forgotten.